Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome, everybody. Hi, everyone out there. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us live on Facebook. I'm Michelle Byerly with the Nonprofit Partnership, and I welcome you to today's Our Stories, Our Time interview. We are thrilled today to have Jaylene Westfall, president of the Junior League of Long Beach, with us. And Our Stories, Our Time is a storytelling initiative that we started here at TMP that allows us to learn about local nonprofits and their impact in communities and how we as community members can support them. So we have been blessed to have so many nonprofit leaders join us, and today we have Jaylene. And so right before we get started, I just want to say thank you to those joining us live and share this with your friends. And please let us know that you're here in the comments. After the interview, we will be uploading this to our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to view it there as well. And I also just want to thank our sponsor, the Port of Long Beach, for sponsoring this series. And they also see the importance of telling our nonprofit stories. So thank you to the Port. So welcome, Jaylene.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Great. And Jaylene, I know you are a prominent community member in all sorts of circles, and today you're here representing the Junior League of Long Beach. So thank you so much for being here. And just to get us started, please tell us about the Junior League of Long Beach, the services and activities that you have, and how you became a part of that organization.
Sure. Well, let's start with how the Junior League was founded. In 1901, Mary Harriman, who lived in New York, was a young 18-year-old socialite, and she thought that her and her friends should do more than just, go to parties and be part of the debutante circle. And so she, and along with her friend, Natalie Henderson, convinced all of the debutantes that were in their class to start to give back to the community in New York as in the settlement houses. And so what they did is they kind of went in and saw the living conditions. They worked with the parents and the kids, convinced the schools that they needed free lunches for the kids. And so it kind of came from this place of, I want to give back to my community. And so that was in 1901.
Wow.
And then it sort of spread throughout the country. And we have, there's almost 300 leagues that are part of the national organization of AJLI, Association of Junior Leagues International. And that includes almost 120,000 members and represents 4 different countries. So
Wow.
we have quite a international organization. And then in 1931, so we are celebrating in October, we celebrate our 90th anniversary. The Junior League of Long Beach was founded and our first president, Helen D. Newcomb. And so it came about with that same kind of philosophy. It was a group of young women who wanted to give back to their community, and they looked at the needs in the community and would just create a service. And so one of the first projects was when the earthquake hit in 1933 in Long Beach. The Junior League gathered together, food donations, clothing donations, set up these tents in the park and help distribute widely needed items while people were displaced. So the kind of Junior League started with this idea that we're going to look at the community, we're going to evaluate what the need is, we're going to start a project, and then we'll nurse it, we'll develop it, and then we pass it off to the community. So for example, some of our past projects have been the Children's Dental Clinic, which is now part of the Miller, it's part of the Miller Children's Dental Clinic. It was a service that the dentist that served the Long Beach Unified School District said, hey, these kids are coming back from summer and they're coming back to school and they haven't been taking care of their teeth. And so the Junior League started teaching preventative classes with, in the schools. So there's a lot of those little things. Another example is Project Hope was a project where the Junior League looked at the city of Long Beach, and we had a lot of homeless students who were having difficulties registering for school and enrolling, having backpacks and uniforms. And so they started putting uniform packages together, and they got got together with other community members and said, this is a need, what can we do? And that rolled into the Bethune Transitional Center, which is now a resource center for any homeless student in Long Beach. So those are some examples. We also have been connected with some of our past projects, Casa Youth Shelter, Rebuilding Together was kind of a some of our projects that rolled into one, and now it's its own project. So that's sort of the history of the league. I became a member of the league in 2014. I had been working in the city of Long Beach for since 2000. I work for another nonprofit, Century Villages at Cabrillo, and I wanted to just get to know the community better. I had been working here for a long time. I loved the people. I met several other women in that were members of the league who just encouraged me and kind of said, you should take a look at it. You're very involved in the community. We think you'd be a good fit. And so I joined, and I'm a big fan of what we do. Not only do we give back to the community with projects, but we also really focus on what we call our PDI, promoting volunteerism, developing the potential of women, and impacting the community with trained volunteers. And so that was something that really interested in me. And yeah, it's been a very wonderful place to not only learn about the community, give back, but also really developing myself and meeting people who feel the same way.
That's great. Thank you for that rich history, and also how you became a part of it. I know it was a loaded question, and really an incubator for what have become powerful nonprofits in the city. And I think that's amazing. And probably that, if my timeline is correct, that around the same time that nonprofits really got started is when the Junior League got started, and then helped to get some of those off the ground. Thank you. And I know there's so many programs and things that you do. So we'll have time at the end to catch some of those other things that the Junior League is doing, or upcoming programs. But we started this series in the pandemic because we just wanted an avenue for people to hear what people were experiencing, how they were shifting programs and things like that. And things have opened up, but I'd love to hear, because it seems like Junior League got a start when there was a need in the community for something. And so how were the last 2 years for the Junior League, and how were you able to use your model to support the community, or just keep moving forward as you would?
Yeah, well, I'd like to kind of just explain a little bit about, I'm the current president. We each serve a 2-year term. We start as a president-elect, and that's our year to kind of learn the job, and then we transition to president. So I have been president since June 1st of 2021, and my presidency will end on May 31st, 2022, and then the next president, Francine Odie, will take over. So it's a little bit interesting, is like when the pandemic first hit, Alex Weiss was our president. And so she had like that beginning piece of, what do we do now? We need to follow the health guidelines. We need to keep our members safe. So at that point, we kind of like took a step back. We canceled our big event that was coming up. We canceled our annual fundraiser, and actually ended up moving it to a virtual fundraiser at the very end of the year. So one of the things I can say about the Junior League is we're very flexible, and we've learned to kind of like, we'll make it happen. We just might have to change how that happens. So that when Alex then turned over the presidency to Ashley Rule, we were kind of in the place where things were still pretty locked down. We're in a place where each year we do our planning for the next year, and how are we going to do our community impact projects? How are we going to do our life skills classes with our kids and our cooking classes with the kids? And so our whole entire membership was challenged with, how is there a way to do this in a safe and virtual way? Mm-hmm. And it took a lot of like adjusting. We really did. Our committee chair of Kids in the Kitchen at that time said, we'll figure it out. And so she went in and like readjusted a lot of the curriculum to be in smaller chunks. And so that it wasn't a 3 or 4 hour cooking class, it was like a 30-minute clip, and we could do it virtually on Zoom. And so we did the same thing with our self-esteem programming. So we really just figured out a way to kind of adjust the curriculum and make it work. I think our biggest challenge was that a lot of our community partners where we were normally working with were also doing the same things. Like, how do we do this? Is it, can we really even gather the kids virtually? Can the kids get online? So there was a lot of, I would say, scrambling to figure out how we're going to do it.
And I think it sounds like you and like most of us, that's we were flexible. And if you were flexible and you use the resources at hand, that you were able to make some sort of shift. So I'm sure it meant the world to those that were receiving those programs and services. And yes, we experienced the same thing. There isn't a 3 hour or 4 hour Zoom anyone wants to be on. So those 30-minute bites or an hour or whatever that is it was a shift I think a lot of people made to at that time.
I think the other important thing that we did is we have membership requirements. Our members, part of our, goals are to give back and promote volunteering. And so the board looked at, well, we can't ask people to go in person and volunteer. There's no place to do that. What do we do? Do we just cancel that part? Do we just say, okay, it's not a requirement? And we did say, hey, look, this is not a year that anybody's, gonna be in trouble if you don't fulfill your duties and all those things. What we did do though is we said, you know what, the Red Cross is saying that they're low on blood supply, and we're seeing trouble with getting paper towels and toilet paper and food. And so what we did was let our members know that if they volunteered for those other places, that we considered that giving back to the community, that fulfilled that piece of their commitment to the community and the league.
That's great. And that became very important to even organizations needing to fulfill their own programming in different ways. And I'm sure having, in a time where volunteerism really did suffer and was down, while there were so many people that wanted to be able to give back, there weren't places to do that. And so it's great to hear you found other ways to do that. And in the spirit of trying to bring volunteerism back or engage more again in the community, what are some of the programs that you are that are coming up or that you're currently running? Those collaborations with other organizations. I know you talked about how that's how some of the organizations were founded here. What are some of those ones that you're currently working with?
Well, one of the nice things about serving as president this year is I'm having the ability to do some things in person again, and it was a little slow ramping up. We did decide to keep some of our activities virtual because the members appreciated that. They were able to, if they were working from home and childcare was an issue, they could still join us, they could still participate. But we did do several in-person events this year. One was a small health fair for children. Actually, we did 2 of them. One with our partner at Rancho Los Cerritos. So we held it in the outside garden area. And then we also did one at the Villages at Cabrillo, again, also outside. So that was one of the things we were able to do, is like kind of adjust size and location. And then the other thing that we were able to do is we were able to bring back our Especially Me program at the school in Avalon, which we had not been to in 2 years. And that was very exciting. It's a small school, small group of girls, but we were able to do that safely. And then we were able to partner with the Michelle Obama Library and host also Especially Me there as well. And that was great. And we honestly, it was a new thing for us because in the past we've done it at schools and we've been in separate classrooms, and the schools were hesitant to, schedule things with us right now. So we decided to do it at the library, and it was a big space. So we had to set it up differently, and it worked actually really well, and we all liked it better. So it may be a long-term change that came out of just kind of having to be flexible and change the way we always did things. So
That's great. I think we've all been able to bring some of those things into, the next version of what we're doing. I want to jump back because I know we're going to get to you sharing how people can be a part of the junior league, but to just talk about how, I know that the collaborations and the programs and the services and the volunteerism and the impact of that is huge, but that part where you're developing leadership and the part of the PDI that you talked about. Talk to me a little bit more about when I'm a member of Junior League, what type of leadership development do I get and what does that look like?
Well, that's a great question, because I think it's one of the most or the more unique things about the league. You can often find places to volunteer for a couple of hours and give back to your community, but it's another to have a place where you feel like you're being invested in as the member. So, for example, we provide leadership trainings to all of our members. There's a training aspect to most of our general meetings. We've done some diversity training this year. We've had a resume building class. We've done there's a grants writing class coming up. And then and those are just some examples. We did a self-care training at one of our general meetings at the beginning of the year. And then if you're a chair and so you're going to lead a committee, there's a special leadership training track that's additional. So you learn how to, write an agenda, facilitate a meeting, you do some communications training, and how to delegate and how to work with, different personalities and get your volunteers who you don't pay. How do you get them to, follow through on their commitments? And so all of those kinds of things. And then also we have AGLI, our national organization, also has training conferences that the members can apply to go to, as well as the board is eligible for some of those other trainings as well. So I talk a lot about when I first joined the league in 2014, 8 years ago. If you had said to me, "Hey, you're going to be president one day," I would have been like, "No, it doesn't sound like my kind of thing." And then the longer I was in the league and the more opportunities I had to try new things, I got to a space where I was like, "Yeah, I can do this." And I think part of that is it's a safe space to practice new skills. You're surrounded by mentors and other women who have done the same position that you're doing, and they're there to support and encourage you. One of our sustainers has said numerous times, there is no failure in junior league. She's like, nobody fails. It's a learning opportunity. There's not that's just not the way it works. We're not going to let that happen. And so I've really appreciated that mentorship and support from all of these other women that have served before me. And I'll continue to serve the league even after they've served as president or other positions. So.
That's amazing. I loved how you said it's that this organization is also investing in you as a member, and not just you investing in the organization and gaining something from the involvement or the volunteerism, but that you're actually learning and developing. And I think that's amazing and something that I'm sure now, and so I'll ask you this question next, people are interested in. And I think a great place to, after you're done with school or you graduate or you move on to an organization, we encourage it. It's part of what we do at the nonprofit partnership, but not all organizations are invested, or businesses are invested in that professional development at that individual level. And sometimes you need the skills to get to the next level, but there's nowhere to learn and practice that. And so that is such a great opportunity to be able to provide a space where that can happen. So thank you so much for sharing that. So if I'm interested, where do I find the Junior League of Long Beach? I love your backdrop. It has your email right there. You can say it out loud. Someone I think is probably going to drop it in the comment section of this Facebook video, but how do we find the Junior League and what does it look like? Like, what's the membership process look like?
So yes, my email's right there. You're welcome to email me directly. You can also visit our website, which is jllb.org. And there's a lot of information about the history of the league, way more than I gave you today. Also more details around what we do, information about what membership looks like. But in general, twice a year we run membership information meetings. And, it's funny, this is part of the thing that changed because of COVID. We did them by Zoom for a while. And what we found is we actually had a lot of interest on the Zoom info meetings because it was kind of a safe way to like quietly check things out without, because we used to do like socials, like we would meet somewhere where we were talking and eating. And so we actually found that we got some people who were interested that might not have come to a social because they didn't know anybody, but they joined by Zoom, sometimes in their car while the kids were at soccer practice. So yeah, it's a whole new world. But we do that twice a year. You have like 3 or 4 opportunities to kind of join us by Zoom or a social and learn more about the league. There's usually several of us who are on the board or members or part of that new member committee there to answer questions. And then there are financial dues and commitments to like volunteer hours and things like that. It kind of depends on when you join because our annual dues are for the whole that June 1st to May 31st. So if you're one of the classes later on in the year, then there's an adjustment to that. And then so that's sort of the process. And then you would, if you decided to join us, you would get a training on the league and kind of how things work. We do a team building project for the new member class so that they get to know each other better. So again, so you kind of like that first meeting that you show up to, you've got some built-in people yeah, so I encourage you guys to check it out if you're interested. We are always looking for members who want to be part of, again, that giving back to the community and also developing themselves and investing in themselves and also making a lot of friends. I've met some of my really good friends from joining the league. So
that's great. And that's sometimes what you need when you move to a new place or you have a new job in a new city, and like building that network of support and, for your own, and maybe that supports a lot of things that you're doing inside and outside of your career. So, and it sounds like the opportunity is there. So that's great. And I love that you're providing an opportunity to make your group of people to then join the larger group. And how many members is there currently of the Junior League? You may have said that in the beginning.
We have a little over 100 active members.
Okay.
But we have a 300, I wrote this down, 360 when you include all of our sustainers. So that's the other little piece is like active members are like the members that are the most active, and they're newer. Once you've served the league for 8 years, you can go become a sustainer, which is typically some of our members who've been around longer, and maybe they don't have the time to commit as much as an active and serve on a committee or that kind of stuff, but they can support either financially, or maybe they might mentor a committee chair, or maybe they just support our annual fundraiser. So there's more flexibility if you're a sustainer, but that's kind of like your retirement. But some of our sustainers are very active. In fact, more active than I see them all the time. I'm like,
it's just nice to not have the obligation, but to choose to, and then obviously it must be a great place if they're choosing to continue to be active.
I just attended last year, there's what we call the Harvest Luncheon, and this is a luncheon to celebrate all of the sustainers who have been a sustainer for 50 or more 50 years.
Wow.
Not who are 50 years old, who've been a sustainer a member for 50 years. So there's a lot of long-term commitment from some of our sustainers who have been around and still support our active membership just on a regular basis.
That's incredible. I think that's one of those things that I think Long Beach is rich in, and this is just another example of that, is these long even family histories of supporting organizations that have been around in this city for over 100 years or 90 to 100 years. A lot of them got started around the same time. And so Junior League is one of those. Thank you for sharing all of that. And there's so much more. I know we can find that on the website or emailing you. Is there any upcoming events that you want to just share quickly, or any info sessions or anything like that might be coming up that you want to mention?
We don't have any scheduled. We just had our annual fundraiser Luna Fest on April 9th at the Art Theater. So that was probably our last big event. We have a couple smaller things, but look for typically the new member info sessions and socials start around August. Because our league year ends May 31st, and then we spend kind of that June and July doing the planning for the next year. So typically our new class, those information sessions start around August. So
that's great.
Keep an eye out on the website for those. And Facebook, you can like our Facebook page, and we promote all of our activities on there as well.
Yes, everyone should like your Facebook page right now so they get those updates. And I've heard wonderful things about Luna Fest, and so it's tell us a little bit about it. So I think that could speak to somebody maybe interested just to follow you so they can find out when the next one is next year.
Sure. Luna Fest, which is our annual fundraiser, is a partnership with Luna Foundation, which is, if you're familiar with the Luna bars, and they are, their foundation is focused on, I believe, breast cancer awareness. And so they have, they partner with community partners throughout the country to put on Luna Fest. And so you apply and you're chosen as another nonprofit to partner with them. And then part of the proceeds that you earn go back to their foundation. But Luna Fest is a film festival that of films that are written by women, for women, about women. So often there's a theme. This year's theme, there was a lot of stuff around COVID and isolation. It changes every year. They're short films, and there's typically about maybe 15 to 20 of them. And this year we held it in the Art Theater, which is on 4th Street. And, you know, people enjoyed the movies, had popcorn, watched the movies, and then outside we had food and wine pulls and you know, other fundraising opportunity drawings. So it's a lot of fun. I usually bring my daughter and several coworkers with me and kind of make it a girls' day. So yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun. But men are welcome to attend.
Great.
It's not a fundraiser, but
that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that too. And so all of us watching will catch it next year. And so we are just about out of time. That flew by, and it has been so great talking with you and learning more. I learned a lot more today than I knew about the Junior League. And so just the last question, this is something we've asked since we started these 2 years ago. And you mentioned a training that was given at one of your meetings for the Junior League, but what are you doing for self-care? What could other leaders like you in the community be doing for self-care, and what's your example of that?
Oh, well, I'll start with the training was by a coworker, Desiree Rue, and she talked a lot about self-care needs to work for you. It's not one size fits all, which I really appreciated, because I often go to these trainings about self-care, and some of the stuff that they're talking about is like, that's just not me. I'm not going to run at 5 a.m. Like, I just am not going to do it. So I love that idea of like, whatever it is that makes you feel good and that you can commit time to, but you need to put it in your schedule, because otherwise you won't do it, right? For me, I like going and hanging out with my close friends and just kind of, you know, people watching. Sometimes it's, you know, at a restaurant, maybe downtown on Pine, and just kind of people watching. I enjoy that. That to me is like relaxing and fun. I also spend a lot of time, not traditional journaling, but I love this new sticker thing that happens with calendars. And so I have all these like stickers that say things like, you've got it, you got this, you can do it. And so I spent some time with my little calendar, like kind of prepping for the next week of like, I can do this, or I finished that, or I crossed it off. So that for me is really helpful, is having kind of a time to just kind of sit with myself and look at, how did last week go? Where did I not give myself enough me time? Did I not give my kids enough time? So for me, that's kind of what I do. I like to kind of sit and have some quiet space and kind of look at how I spent my time last week and what next week looks like, and how to make sure that I take care of whatever it is that I need to do for myself.
Thank you so much for sharing. And the biggest takeaway there is schedule whatever it is you need for you. So, and that's great advice. Well, I want to thank you for your time today and sharing all about the Junior League of Long Beach. And I know you said jllb.org is where all this information can be found, or they can email you. Your email's up on president@jllb.org and probably in the comment section. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to the port for sponsoring Our Stories, Our Time. And we hope to see you all in 2 weeks for our next interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jaylene. Have a great day, everyone out there.
Bye.